Welcome. In this video I'm going to compare the Xperia 1 Mark II to the iPhone 12 Pro. This is going to be very interesting. I'm Supreet, and on this channel we cover smartphones and photography through tutorials, reviews, and honest camera comparisons. So if that interests you, consider joining our small community. To give you a sneak peek, yes, the iPhone 12 Pro is the best iPhone ever, but it leaves some things on the table when compared to the Xperia 1 Mark II. In this video, I'm going to go over 6 categories, most of them obviously covering the cameras. So first, let's cover the hardware. Both phones are well built and have flat sides. So the question is which phone stands up better? And I mean literally stands up better. So let's take a quick look. So here we have the Xperia 1 Mark II, which is a little tricky to get right, and the iPhone 12 Pro. I think it's safe to say that the iPhone wins this one. For display, the 12 Pro has the HDR OLED panel, which is very similar to what we saw on the iPhone 11 Pro. The Xperia screen is also a HDR OLED panel, but it's 4K, and Sony has a secret edge here, which I'll cover in a bit. With the iPhone, we still have the same notch with the same Face ID. And Xperia has a fingerprint sensor, which is honestly quite a bit more convenient in today's world. So next, media consumption. Which one is better at playing videos? Now, iPhone owners have gotten used to the notch, and I have to say after using the Xperia, not having a notch is definitely better. I find myself zooming in on videos very often, and on the iPhone, the notch does get in the way at times, while on the Xperia it doesn't. And both displays are quite nice in terms of colors and detail and black levels being OLED panels. The one edge that Xperia has is the creator mode. HDR footage on the iPhone looks extra punchy, and sometimes you get orange skin tones which aren't natural. Xperia's creator mode solves this problem. I hope Apple comes around to adding a similar Pro setting in iOS. With audio, the speakers on the iPhone get louder, but the Xperia sounds better. There's better clarity and track separation. I found that 50% volume on the Xperia was roughly equivalent to about 30% volume with the iPhone. So it's up to you to decide, do you value volume or clarity? And with the Xperia, you have more headphone options because of the headphone jack. Also, Dolby Atmos and DSEE are pretty awesome. So hopefully Apple catches up with more pro audio controls as well. I'm going to skip talking about other basics like speed, network, battery life, because I think other channels have done a pretty good job of that already. What you're really here for is how the cameras compare. So let's dive in. Let's start with the easy one, the selfie camera. By far, the iPhone leads here. The camera is more detailed, it can record 4K video, and the Xperia doesn't even support the selfie camera in their Pro apps. Overall, the iPhone takes sharper images with all of its cameras, but that's not always a good thing. If you take a look at this image here of this minion, you'll see that the background is quite sharp, and it kind of distracts away from our subject, the minion. Now, if we look at the same image with the Xperia, you can see that we're getting some natural background blur, and the minion really pops in this image. Now, in normal bright situations, both cameras perform similarly well. If you take a look at this image outside of this colorful tree, you'll see that both the Xperia and the iPhone shots are pretty nice. The difference here to note is that with the Xperia, we can shoot in RAW and really tweak the image to our liking. Now, another win for the iPhone is the Telephoto Camera. The Telephoto Camera and the overall zoom performance is better with the iPhone. And you can clearly see that here when I zoomed into the max on the minion here. You can see that the iPhone image is quite a bit more detailed and just looks way better than what I got with the Xperia. Now, a lot of people will talk about the strength of night mode with the iPhone, but it's worth noting that you can take some impressive night images with the Xperia as well, if you can hold the phone steady. Take a look at this image I took of a minion with night mode with the Xperia, which looks quite nice. And actually, when I compare it to the iPhone photo here, I actually prefer the Xperia's image. Next, let's talk about Smart HDR and Deep Fusion. The iPhone's secret weapon is computational photography, where it combines multiple images into one to create something that hopefully looks a little bit better. Now with the 12 Pro, we're seeing Smart HDR3 with Deep Fusion. And it is impressive, but it's not perfect. Take a look at this simple shot of leaves in a fence taken with the 12 Pro. You can immediately notice how bright the fence looks. And in reality, the fence was actually soaked in water and quite a bit darker. Now look at this image taken with the Xperia, without any of this multi-image combining. It honestly looks quite a bit more appealing to me, and you can notice how the fence is more accurate. It's darker and looks like it actually is soaked in water. And you can also notice that the leaves really pop in this image. This is also a good example of seeing the depth of field difference between the two phones. The Xperia has only one leaf in focus and kind of gives us that feel of a larger camera, while the 12 Pro has quite a bit more in focus, and you can pretty much see the whole top half of the fence here in focus. So while the iPhone pulled more detail out of this image, right, with the fence and with the leaves, I think the Xperia shot really looks more appealing from a pure photography standpoint. Next, let's talk about the camera apps. Now with the iPhone 12 Pro, the camera app is almost exactly what we have in the 11 Pro running iOS 14. I was honestly expecting some new features in the app, given the Dolby Vision cinema-grade video that you can record with it. The Xperia, on the other hand, has far more Pro controls built in, with the Photo Pro and Cinema Pro apps, which I've done quite a few tutorials on. And this is an area that Apple really needs to catch up on. I think they rely way too heavily on apps like Filmic Pro. I think we'll see some updates to the app when Apple's ProRAW comes out, so stay tuned for that coverage. Now let's talk about the big topic, HDR video. Now both of these phones can record HDR video. The Xperia records in the HLG format, which is a more common broadcast format, while the iPhone, we all know, records in Dolby Vision. It's worth noting that the iPhone's Dolby Vision does also map to HLG. So how does the video compare? Let's take a look. Here's some footage taken with the 12 Pro. And you can see that the dynamic range is pretty nice. You can see that the sky is not blown out. You can also see the detail in the shade. Now if we take a look at the same scene captured on the Xperia, you'll notice that we're seeing the sky getting blown out quite a bit. The dynamic range is not as high, but the footage looks pretty nice still. I also noticed that the Xperia lenses flare quite a bit less than the iPhone does, and I covered some of this in my last video. So you might be thinking that the 12 Pro won this round. One big gap with the iPhone's video is the limited manual control. While with the Xperia, we have an app like Cinema Pro, and I'm not referring to advanced settings like shutter angle and log profiles. Basic things like changing the focus is missing with the iPhone. And I can't do shots like this, where the subject seamlessly comes into focus. I'm also not able to change the white balance. So if a scene is shot with, let's say, yellow light, it's going to look white with the iPhone. And there's no easy way to fix this after the fact. So Apple, please give us basic controls like manual focus and the ability to change our white balance. These are table stakes when recording Pro video. I've been using the 11 Pro since it came out last year, and the 12 Pro isn't any more pro than that phone was. The overall camera experience is better, but it's only better in limited areas like the ultra-wide camera and the HDR video recording. The Dolby Vision video has some caveats like the limited post-processing options and the lack of basic controls. Overall, the iPhone 12 Pro camera is still an automatic experience. If you want pro controls over the sensors, where you can actually change some of the settings, a phone like the Xperia 1 Mark II is still a great option. On the other hand, if you want an automatic camera experience and have an iPhone that's a few years old, the 12 Pro is a great place to jump in. It's very solid. It literally feels like a solid steel brick. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you're new here. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.